And I'm showing 6:30, so we've got 4 of us, so why don't we go ahead and get started. And let me roll this back to the beginning. Yeah, so it's session number 7. Thanks for showing up, guys. Happy Thanksgiving. I know it's a holiday and it's tough to get here. I'm sure everybody has other things they just as soon be doing, so my plan is to keep this concise, to the point, and try to get some important topics covered for tonight. So with that, tonight's agenda starts with a CWDP Chapter 3 and Chapter 4 review. And here's my review. Guys, I've been through Chapter 3 and Chapter 4, and these are very, very high level. And most of the stuff that's talked about in here is going to come back a little later on. So I think it's just kind of setting the stage. So what I'd like you to do is go through the questions at the end, the review questions at the end of Chapters 3 and 4. And next week, let's have a discussion on any of the topics that you feel that you don't understand based on your answers to the review questions. But other than that, because most of it is just, okay, here's some terms you need to know. You know, here's some different types of applications that you need to keep in mind and things like that. I think this is high enough level that we're not going to have to go too far into it. Once you do that, let's try to get started on Chapter 5, which is, again, pretty high level. But it is starting to set the stage a little bit and starts talking. Biggest thing in Chapter 5 that you should probably pay attention to is the ideas of the architecture and how the architectures can be broken down into separate jurisdictions, I guess you'd call them. So with that, unless there are specific questions on Chapter 3 and 4 or anything with CWDP up to this point, then I'll go ahead and move us on. Are we good with that? Say no if you'd rather talk about 3 and 4. Okay then. Well then, following that, so Chapter 3 and 4 discussion out of the way, and we'll come back to that next week. I have 2 special presentations tonight that kind of dovetail into each other, and I'm kind of putting Jeff on the spot here. And Jeff, I don't know if you're prepared to do this, but I penciled in that you were going to show us the L517 dictionary generator that you came up with, which is a Windows-based application, and it does a real nice job. I was very impressed with it. And it also allows us to save those dictionaries into a Unix format so that we can bring them down into Kali Linux. And then following that, I'm going to use a dictionary file to show how to crack WPA-PSK. So with that said, why don't we go ahead and move off. And let's see, I've got on the website under weekly sessions, you saw I've been a little remiss and I haven't had the agenda slides up for several weeks now, and I'll get that backfilled in here within the next few days. But other than the recording that Jared is handling right now, I think session 7, all the materials from me are up here. And Jeff, you can see, if you're seeing my screen, you can see file download sample dictionary file from Jeff.
Yeah.
And that's the one that you're going to talk about now?
Yes, yes.
So how would you like to do this? Would you like me to give you the presenter so we can see your screen?
Yeah, you can give me the presenter, and then I can go from there.
Okay. So let's do that. I'm turning the floor over to Jeff. Again, not trying to put you on the spot, Jeff. Hopefully you're ready.
Nope. I think we're okay.
Okay.
Give me a little bit of leeway here.
You bet.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Sure can, yep.
Okay, and so you should be seeing a screen labeled L15 with a couple graphics on it?
Yep.
Okay, so this is just a relatively simple slide. After the last meeting, this type of thing really sort of interests me. So I went and took a look at a lot of different word generators. From what a lot of my reading is that there are really about 3 different ways that people tend to approach this. Specific word generators, which generate very specific type of patterns, a general word generator, which does any kind of patterns, and then generators which specifically pull information out of documents, out of other lists, out of lists of passwords, out of books, etc., etc. L15 is a very small general word list generator. It runs both in Windows, it'll run in Parallels on a Mac, and it'll run using Wine within a Linux environment. I've run it in all 3. We use Macs at my work, so I was able to access one of those, and it runs quite nicely. As you can see from the graphic here, there is a huge amount of different types of patterns that it does. It will not only do alphas, it'll do alpha uppercase and lowercase. It'll do any numeric from 0 to 9. It'll do any symbol, and it'll also include space as a character. There are a wide variety where you can do uppercase and lowercase alpha, or you can do complete mix. The primary issue that I found with L15 is the size of the files that it creates. It will only create a single file. So therefore, when you go to create this, it creates a number of characters that populate a text file, or as Rick said, a Unix file, or a wide variety of different types of files. Now, the file that I generated was 4 characters. It was alphas, upper and lower, and it was 0 through 9 and contained ASCII symbols as well as space. It generated 78,074,896 words in a file that was 468.45 meg in size.
That's amazing.
And it did it in 12 minutes.
468 meg?
468 meg, and it did it in 12 minutes. So it moves. It's really nice for what it does. The problem that I had with it is that I wanted to show like a 6 character, but I started to get into petabytes and terabytes and exabyte size files in creating these, because it does do every possible combination, and your control is a little limited. So Kali, built into Kali, is a word list generator of its own, and it is called Crunch. Now, what Crunch does is Crunch allows you a great deal more control over what type of word list you're actually generating. One of the big things that I saw that could be really handy is that you can break up the output by numbers of lines or file size. So I can say I want to run this 468 meg file, but I want it broken up into 50 meg files, and Crunch will automatically do that for you. And that's something that I can see would be really beneficial, because moving, even zipped, that 468 file was 100 meg. And so moving that around and using it, I can see would be difficult. It supports numbers and symbols. It supports upper and lowercase characters. It adds a status report while generating the multiple files. It limits duplicate characters, which is really nice. So not only does it limit duplicate characters next to each other, but within the same word or same string. It also has a nice randomization function where L517 started out with AAA, BBB, CCC, and so the first character ended up staying the same for huge chunks of the word list. The Crunch randomizes that, so you get a much more random word list, where I can see if you're using this as a password generation list or something like that, it would be a lot better than just having everything in a sequential manner. Crunch also has full Unicode support, where it didn't seem like L15 had full Unicode. You couldn't go in and adjust UTF-8 and things like that, or at least I haven't found yet how to go about and do that. Crunch is purely command line, and it's built into Kali, which is a nice advantage as well. Overall, any of the word list generators, it really pointed out to me, and the thing that I've taken away from this is that if you're looking at WPA-PSK and you're looking at WPA2, say AES-PSK, really, to me, the important thing is not necessarily the complexity of the passphrase that you use. It is the length of the passphrase that you use. Because a standard dictionary attack has to take into account whether you use upper, lower, space, character. It's got to take into account all of that. And in order to take into account all of that, you're going to end up with absolutely fantastically sized word list. Ones that will take not only hours and hours or possibly days to generate on your own, but then to be able to move them and manipulate them and carry them with you, and then to be able to apply them against something. It starts to become, you're not going to get any return from it. It's taking way, way too much time. So I took a look at, and the the WPA key that I use here in my home wireless is 18 characters long. And in order for L517 to generate a word list to take into account 18 characters and all possible combinations, came out to be 46 exabytes of information. So that's in my world, that's impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no possible way. So just, and mine is relatively simple. It's not that complex, but just to have that many characters is huge. So I think that really opened my eyes up to how dictionary attacks nowadays are really much more old school, like web, where you really don't have, it's not something viable. There's got to be some other better way of doing this. But I'm sure there's still people out there that do it. So it was pretty eye-opening.
Jeff, do you have a feeling then, I have two thoughts. The first is, do you have a feeling for what's the sweet spot in terms of number of characters that makes it not desirable to try to do a dictionary attack against? Are we talking about 10 or 12 or?
Well, when I hit 6, I started moving into gigabytes. When I hit 8, I moved into a terabyte. So I would think 8 and above would start to be the place where, you know, you're looking at having, I mean, I have an external hard drive that I carry with me that's 2 terabytes. Right. And, you know, it alone there is I could fill it up with 10 characters, but that would, I would guess, probably only take me about 3 or 4 hours to generate, but then I don't know how long it would take me to apply it. So I would say 8 to 10 characters would be the sweet spot. After that, you're going to start to run into having to have multiple external drives. You're going to have to run into all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, the thing that when I was playing around with this just a little bit, I found that, you know, once the file got to be super large like that, just getting it to load, and I don't know how, you know, is breaking it up into multiple files the way to do it, and then when you're using your tool against it, you just loop it through each dictionary file? Is that the technique?
I would think that would be the technique, and that's where I can see where Crunch definitely has an advantage. In terms of that you can break it up. But so in the end, you're still going to have to carry huge amounts of data with you.
Right. Well, I think a lot of these if I'm not mistaken, I think that the dictionary attack kind of, I would say, goes a little like this. They go out and they capture what they need to capture, and they bring it back to their lair, and they run it in the comfort of their home, where they have huge, you know, I mean, raids and whatnot. Is that how it's done?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I would. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's right. That's all you need is the 4-way handshake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing that crossed my mind, Jeff, this is great work, by the way.
Yeah, really.
I was thinking about this. So, you know, the underground folks, the people that are attacking our networks, I think they're kind of like in a club, you know? So I could almost see them generating these large dictionaries and using Crunch and breaking it up and then having a kind of like a parallel attack where they're using multiple CPUs or something like that. I don't know how that would actually work necessarily.
Okay, here, let's see, I'm not sure I still have it here. Let's see if it's there. No, it's on my other computer. I downloaded, so the first time I looked at, and Rick and I talked about doing this, I come across pre-generated word lists that were from like Facebook passwords and all kinds of stuff like this that were really on the edge of what I would consider, you know, legal for me to do in a white hat type of way. And those were available all over. The torrents are full of them. Right? Just huge sets of word lists. You know, all kinds of Facebook stuff, all kinds of social media stuff, all kinds of stuff off of Twitter, everything else. And you can just download these lists. So I would guess that you could almost, like you said, if it's a club, you could almost develop a master set of these word lists that you collect over time, which just contain, and then it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time and crunching. And if you're using parallel processing, you know, with 3 or 4 or 5 computers going at a time, and you've got a month to go to have them crunch away, I would guess you could crack, you know, a good bit of what's out there.
So guys, if I can jump in for a second, I just wanted to point out there we're talking about 2 separate philosophies here when it comes to the password themselves. And what you've done, Jeff, is expose good password practices. You've taken a password and you assumed it would be completely randomized. And the majority of passwords don't work that way. The majority of passwords are going to be some kind of word that's easy for the user to remember. That's by far the majority. So what you were just hitting on right there are 2 separate things. When you go into Crunch, you go into L517 and you generate a fully randomized password list. That's an incredible amount of possibilities to put together even 4 or 5 or 6 combinations of all the alphanumeric, ASCII, uppercase, extended character sets. But when you think about just words that people are likely to use for their password, now you've narrowed it down to a very, very small set. And I took a tip from you, Jeff, and using L517, can you bring up a live L517 right now on your desktop?
Yep. Give me just a moment here.
I'll show you what I did, and this was from you. So I went to, let's see, I think I went to Help.
Okay.
And there was Get some word list. Yep. And from there, do you want to download a zip? Yep. So say yes. And it has 7 word lists in there. One of them was the one that is used for Cain and Abel. And I just, if you can, let's see, save file if you don't mind.
Yep.
And then if you unzip that, you'll see. Now, I think you did this too. Didn't you find one of these passwords?
Yeah, I found a couple of these. Yep.
Had some objectionable passwords in there or something?
Yeah, that's what worried me. A lot of them had, so there was a torrent out there that had released about 2,500 known Facebook passwords.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's...
And that one I was like, I'm not sure I want to go down that road.
Do you see the one that says list-cain.txt?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so I took that one, which is, you know, it's words and alphanumerics, and I took that one and I saved it in a Unix format, which I can't remember if that means it's got carriage returns at the end of each line or just line feeds, LFs at the end of each line, but there's a difference between the types. I saved that file, and I just used that in the presentation I'm going to show you here, just so you know where I got that. But Cain and Abel is a password cracker, a Unix password cracker, and the next one that was in there, that one called John, that's probably John the Ripper. if you've heard of that one. John the Ripper's another, list dash John. Yeah. So those are old passwords, password lists. But do you see the difference between a fully randomized password list like you generate with the password generator like Crunch or with L517 and just a word list? And so kind of interesting in those two philosophies. I think that most people are more likely to use a word list like this. But another thing that you should keep in mind is one way to randomize a simple word list is to put several words together, because that's not going to be in a dictionary. You think about it. If I took Control, Danny, David, Denny, and put that as my password, what word list is going to have that in there? The only way you could arrive at that would be to do a fully randomized dictionary that had, what would that be, 20 characters right there?
Yeah.
So that would be next to impossible to crack, and it would be simple to remember. You could even do Blazer, Booger, Charles, and that would be a pretty tough one to guess too. So
yeah, one that a very good practice that I was taught by somebody who taught me IT a number of years ago is the first line of your favorite song.
There you go.
So it's a sentence.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's a whole bunch of words put together that might or might not make any sense, but it's really easy for you to remember.
Yep. Or your favorite poem or nursery rhyme or anything like that would be.
Or anything like that. But that I can see would be a really good practice.
And tough to break. It would be next to impossible and easy to remember too. So if you want to be able to remember. So very good. I didn't mean to cut in. Were you finished with this, or?
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm perfectly fine. I think this is great. This is fantastic.
Well, I sure appreciate you doing that. That was well done and very, very interesting. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so let me see here. Now, I must ask, how do I get this back to you now?
If you wouldn't mind emailing this to me, I will put it into Storyline and upload it to the website so everybody can see that.
Absolutely.
Okay, no hurry on that. I'll do it afterwards.
Okay.
And if you don't mind, I will take back.
Yep, and excellent.
Okay. Very
fantastic.
Nice.
Well, thank you.
Yep, very nice.
Thank you for letting me do something.
Oh, you're going to regret that, because I can use all the help I can get with this stuff, I'll tell you what. And now that I've found both James and Jeff willing to pitch in, har, har, har.
Oh, no, that's fine. I've spent all day fighting with my alpha, so it's been fun. I've learned a lot.
Well, speaking of the alpha, tell you what, here's my little presentation, which I call Cracking WPA-PSK Part 2. And the reason it's Part 2 is because Part 1 is going to, it's not done yet, and it's not going to be shown tonight, but hopefully next week. Part 1 is an understanding of how WPA and the pre-shared key work exactly. And rather than try to fit that in tonight, I just decided to go for the hands-on portion, the lab, and I'll come back to Part 1 at a later time. So if you'll just indulge me for a few minutes here. I put together this lab. This has been modernized. I've got it all working with Kali, and thanks to Jeff and the Wordlist generator, L517, that I ran in Windows. And Jeff, I didn't know that you could run it on a Mac and on Kali Linux in Wine. So that's good to know. I'm going to have to try that. So what I did was I just genned it on Windows, and then I put it on a thumb drive, and then I brought that over. So this is a hands-on lab. I hope you can all try this out. Let me know if you have any problems with it. I've been through it a couple times. I think all the steps are there, and everything should work for you. So it's WPA-PSK key recovery. I have 2 laptops. Laptop 1 was my intruder or attack machine. Laptop 2 was the innocent client who was just connected to an access point using WPA-PSK, pre-shared key, and then I just ran a continuous ping. So here are the steps that I went through, the installation steps, or actually the lab steps, I should change that. First, configure and connect WPA-PSK, then prepare your word list and dictionary file for use. Get that into a location where you'll be able to access it from our password cracker. Then you need to determine the BSSID and the channel of the target access point, then begin a packet capture process. While you're capturing the packets, you're going to perform a deauthentication of the client station. And once that deauthentication happens, you want to verify that it happened. And once you're sure that you've got the deauth to hit, then that will force the client to automatically reassociate. And when they do that, you'll see the new four-way handshake. And it's that four-way handshake that we're trying to gather. Now, I'll go into the details of all the four-way handshake information and stuff probably next session. But for now, just know that we're looking for that four-way handshake. Once you've done that, you can stop the packet capture. Now you've got a capture file saved to disk, and now you want to just check and make sure what the name of the packet of the file is. And once you know that, you can begin to use AirCrack-ng to crack out the pre-shared key. And so finally, at the end of it, you should be able to tell me what my pre-shared key is. So here are the steps. Step one, we're going to configure and connect WPA-PSK. Forgive me for being so detailed. This is just the way I think. I've got to have every little step, every little I crossed and every T dotted before I can proceed. That's just the way I work. So step one, configure and connect WPA-PSK. First, I had to configure an access point with a WPA pre-shared key. Then I configured a client station with a pre-shared key. Then I connected the client station to the access point and began a continuous ping from client station to AP. So here's what that looked like. I just used a little Soho access point because it's easier to set up pre-shared key than it is on enterprise-grade equipment. And then I configured a client to connect to it using temporal key integrity protocol, WPA. And then I connected to it. Once I did that, it began a continuous ping to that device. So I've got two laptops. One is running a continuous ping. It's just an innocent client. Okay, so the next thing I had to do was prepare my word list or dictionary file for use with the cracking utility. And once I had done that, I put it on a USB drive. That seemed like the simplest way for me to be able to get that into Kali Linux, which I'm running in a VM. So I did that, put it on a USB drive, and then from Kali, I was just able to bring up my removable devices and then look for my USB drive, which is listed here as Toshiba removable disk. But once I checkboxed that on and connected it, then it showed up here on my desktop as the Kingston USB drive. So it was just real easy to access after that point. So to make it even easier, now I think it would have been just as easy to just path in the file command, the actual command line command, I could have just pathed to the Kingston thumb drive, but instead I decided to just copy the file to the home directory. So I right-clicked on it. I called that, and remember I'm using that Kane enable password file. I renamed it to list_unix.txt, and I copied that to the home directory, which is where my packet captures are going to end up automatically. Okay, so I like simple, so I just copied it in there. Now the next step would be to determine the BSSID and channel of the target access point. And guys, we've covered at least two different ways that you can do that. You can do IW list with the scanning option. You could bring up Kismet. You could bring up some other utilities, but I thought this would be a good time to show another way that we can take a look and do a quick scan of the environment to locate BSSIDs and channels of target. So I haven't showed this one before. I thought you might be interested in seeing this one done. So the first thing I did was brought up the alpha, and remember that the alpha has to show up in your list of removable devices, has to be connected, and it showed up there as Raylink. And when I did an IW config, then my alpha shows up as WLAN 0. Now remember, that could change if you've got other wireless LAN devices that are recognized by Khalid when you bring it up. So I always do that as just a quick test to make sure that the interface that I want to work with, I make sure that I identify the interface name and number, WLAN 0 in this case. And once I've done that, then I'm going to use Airmon-ng to put that alpha into monitor mode. So Airmon-ng space start space WLAN 0 and hit enter on that, and that will put the alpha in monitor mode, which is a form of promiscuous mode, as you all know. So monitor mode enabled on Mon 0, we see that here, and it shows the RayLink RT2870, 3070, or whatever one that is, RT2800 USB adapter is now in monitor mode. When it's in monitor mode, we're good to go on all this stuff. So with that, the next thing I did was Airodump-ng Mon 0. So once it's in monitor mode, I typed Airodump-ng and the interface, and by doing that, it pops up and automatically starts scanning all the channels for you. And it'll just pick these all up just like Kismet or any of the others, the scanning options for IW list. But it's really fast. And it shows here the SSID that I was looking for is AirExperts_6. So that's my ESSID that I knew that I had configured with pre-shared key. And sure enough, it shows PSK next to it. It shows TKIP. It shows WPA. As I am going to the left, I see channel 11. We need to know the channel it's on for later on. And then continuing on, I need to get the MAC address, specifically the BSSID. So I need to jot down two things, and that is the BSSID in hex format and also the channel that this access point is beaconing on. Those are the two things I need to know. After that, then I can set the interface. Now this is, I threw this in, this is mostly for James's benefit because this is a little bit redundant. You don't necessarily have to do this step, but I wanted to force the RayLink alpha onto channel 11 in order to run the DOF attack. So James, if you wanted to just run the DOF attack without running some of the other things that we're going to go through, all you'd have to do is put the alpha into monitor mode and then set the channel that you wanted to run the DOF on, because you can't do that, I don't think, from the command I'm going to show you to run it's air rate. Okay.
I'm tracking on that. I believe that that's what I did. But I will reserve comment until we get further, because you may light the bulb up for me yet.
Okay. So then the next step, begin packet capturing. So we've got the RayLink and it's on channel 11, and now we're going to run Airodump-ng. So with Airodump-ng running, do you see that there's a command in there, -- channel 11? That's the one that is makes the other one redundant if you're just going straight through this. Okay, so if you run Airodump on channel 11, then that also your DOF is also going to be on channel 11 later on. Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay, so you wouldn't have had to specifically do that. But here we go. So Airodump-ng and -- BSSID. Here you put the MAC address of the BSSID address of the AP, the channel it's on, and then tell it to write that out to a text file. I called mine uppercase WPA, lowercase crack, and I said use Mon 0, the interface Mon 0. And it started running like this. So I'm gonna let that run in the background, and then the next thing I'm gonna do, open up a second terminal window and run the deauthenticate utility. So what we're trying to do is force a new four-way handshake. In order to do it, all we have to do is kick off that client and then stop kicking him off, and he'll come back on automatically. So here's the big thing. It's a very simple command. Is this the one you use, James? Air replay -ng. You used this command and you had trouble with it, huh?
Yeah, what I saw in the packet capture was from the foreign AP, I saw a deauth, or I saw a deauth basically saying class 3 frame from unassociated stay.
Okay. So I'm not sure what's going on. What I'd like you to do, if you would please, is follow all these steps. You can just use my capture file if you want, but you might want to verify it from your machine to see if you get the same results.
Absolutely.
I'd like you to go in. Yeah, go in with Wireshark and see if you can tell me why this works, because I think I know why it works. I'm not sure why it didn't work for you.
Gotcha.
And make sure you're using -A, and I'm using the MAC address here of the AP,
right?
Not the client. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So just
that's.
You see? I think that's
yeah, because I think I was using the MAC address of a foreign client.
Right. That's what I think you did. So what's cool about well, I don't want to let the bag out of the cat, so I'm going to let you explore that a little bit and bring it back next week and tell me what you think, okay?
Yep.
All right. So with that done, so remember, you got to be on the right channel, and since we're on channel 11, it's waiting for a beacon frame, and when it does that, then it's going to send out a deauth to broadcast, and when it does that, if you're watching on your client device, you should be able to see it miss a ping, just like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It looks like we missed one ping. Tell me if that's what you see in your capture files with Wireshark, though. I think you'll be interested to see what's really going on in there.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when I see that request timed out for one ping, I know that we've got the deauth to happen, and so now we can stop Airodump. And by stopping it, now you can just close that terminal window or stop it another way. You might be able to use Control-C to stop it, I'm not sure, or quit for Q or something. But I think I just closed the terminal window and then did a list of the home folder. And when I did, it's just because it always adds a little extension on there, and you want to make sure you get that extension right. So I called my file WPA-PSK, and it adds the -01.cap because it'll add additional files when it fills the maximum file size. Okay, so WPA-PSK-01.cap is going to be my capture file. That Airodump also makes a Kismet compatible file, a CSV compatible file, and I'm not sure what the XML file for Kismet is exactly, but the one we're interested in is the .cap file, of course. Okay.
The XML one might be I might be wrong on this, but doesn't Kismet keep extending information about when certain APs are seen and where they're seen? It might be that metadata. That might be what that is.
It might be, yeah, for Latin long.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. We should open it up sometime.
Yep.
Kismet deserves some attention. It's a pretty nice utility, but probably not this week. Notice also that my list_unix.txt, that's my word list, is in the same folder, just to make it simple. And then step 8, now we're going to begin aircrack-ng. Aircrack-ng, we have to identify the capture file and the word list file. It's probably easiest to do this with an additional terminal window. And here's your command, aircrack-ng, WPA-crack-01.cap, -W for the word list, then list_unix.txt. Okay, and it should begin comparing. And it's going to go through and it's going to try each of the words in the dictionary file against the four-way handshake to see if it matches the file. And I'll go through more details on that next week. But if you, here's the interesting thing about a brute force attack. With the assumption that you have a dictionary file that contains the password, if you have that, then a brute force attack is absolutely guaranteed to work. It's the only intruder attack that's guaranteed to work. Again, the stipulation is if the password you're trying to crack is in the dictionary file, then a brute force attack is guaranteed to work.
And pretty quickly, right?
This one went pretty quickly. So here is my success. And it took me 4 minutes and 26 seconds on that try. Oh, shoot. Wait.
Wow.
Darn. Oh, no. Sorry. That one wasn't supposed to contain the password. Sorry. Did you guys memorize it?
No. I missed it.
Okay, so I've got to change this just because I thought it'd be more fun for you to crack it than for me to just show it to you. Okay, so
yeah, definitely. I'm itching.
Oh, thanks, Jarrett. Jarrett said he recorded it, so so don't look at the recording till after you crack it. Okay.
I was gonna say I'm assuming that's the password that we need to figure out is in there, right?
It is. Yeah. Oh, Jarrett said he can leave it out. Okay, thank you, Jarrett. Why don't you leave it out for now? Just because what was interesting about this, and I was thinking of this while Jeff was having his discussion, this password I used is 21 characters.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But again, if it's a standard word and it's happens to be in the word list you're looking for, it doesn't really matter how long it is. We're just checking one word at a time, you know.
So the dictionary that we'll be using, you've put the word in there just to illustrate the point. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's the same dictionary that I used. It's the same dictionary that I picked a word out of the list that was 21 characters long.
Wow, there were words in there that were that long?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Gotcha.
So that's what I'd like for you to try next week. If you will use the capture file that's on the website.
Okay.
Let's get there. So here's the WPA-PSK capture file. That's WPA crack -01.cap. Here is the word list to use with that, with aircrack-ng. And then in addition, Jeff shared his 100 meg, was that 4? That was 4 characters of everything, right, Jeff? Yeah, I think he said yes. And don't forget that's zipped. So when I undid that, I think he said it was over 450 meg when you unzip that. So pretty good compression on that. Okay. And that's the end of that. Let me see here. I got a note. Okay.
So Rick, this WP-PSK hands-on, those are the slides for that they'll walk us through the steps.
Yep. Okay. That'll walk you through the steps. Let me redo it. I just want to put the blank, the second to the last slide. I just want to blank that out. So if you'll let me redo that, I'll. Do you want that tonight? It won't take long to do.
It's fine. I mean, I'm not going to look at the answer. I want to go through the steps. I mean, this is something I've been trying to figure out for a while, so I'm not going to cheat. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, it's not cheating, but yeah, I know what you mean. I'll go ahead and redo that tomorrow then. So
well, don't do it tomorrow, Rick. I mean, I'm assuming you're eating turkey tomorrow, so.
Well, I can do that while I'm eating turkey.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just don't do it after you've eaten all the turkey.
Yeah. Fall asleep with your head in the keyboard.
There you go.
Yeah. You know, those random characters keep showing up. Yeah.
Well, I think that's about all I had for tonight, guys. So let me see here.
That word list, it's coming down as. Oh wait, no, never mind. I got it. It's text, I think. I was worried that it was coming down. At first, it said that it was a PHP file.
Huh.
It was odd, but I think I'm good.
Well,
there's
again,
a lot of words in there, man.
Yeah. it's a pretty good sized list. It's not real extensive, but had some good words in there, and just makes a good example, you know. And again, when you think about a completely randomized list compared to a word dictionary list, what a difference in efficiency. So anyway, again, if you have any trouble with that, you could just download the L517 and just use get that word list from and use the cane enabled password list. Everybody still hear me okay?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
This is Adam, joining a little bit late. So, hey everybody, happy pre-Thanksgiving. And
Hi Adam.
How are you?
Good to see you. Hear you.
Good to see you as well. I know we didn't have class last week, and then the week before I was on an airplane, so I missed the class. So anyway, thanks again for putting everything together, and looking forward to you know, going back and watching the first 45 minutes here of the class.
Yeah, you bet. Glad to do it. As James and I were talking earlier tonight, what this is, I hope everybody doesn't get the wrong idea. I'm not trying to create, not trying to make hackers out of anybody, but what I'm trying to do is help you build a toolkit. And these are some of the tools that you may find useful under certain circumstances going forward. Knowing how to do this, I mean, it's just amazing what you can do with what was Backtrack before and now Kali Linux it's just amazing, and it's so compact to just fit and run in a VM and just be able to fire that thing up in 2 or 3 minutes. In the old days, I used to have to boot it up off of a CD, and it's just amazing how much more useful this is. So hope that this is all something you can put in your toolbox and everybody gets some use out of it. And in the spirit of the season, happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and hope you all enjoy it. Have fun with the lab, and I'll plan on talking to you again next Wednesday. I've got 12:14. Does that sound right for everybody?
Sounds great.
12-4, yep.
12:14 is
12:4.
the next.
No, 12:4. Sorry about that.
12:4. Okay.
Yeah, 12-4 is next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, well, any comments from anybody? Anything anybody else wants to share?
No, we're good.
Okay, well, Adam, be sure to check out the beginning, because Jeff did a really nice presentation on a couple of different ways to generate word lists, and I think you'll enjoy that. And Jeff, thanks a lot for doing that. That was a big help, and much appreciated by all of us.
Yep.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
All right, well, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thanks.
Same to you. And Stuart, as always, thanks for recording these and putting those up for us. We appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Everybody have a good holiday. I'll see you next Wednesday.
All right, guys. Take care.
All right.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everybody.
Good night, all.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.